Hello, friend. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me today is Sam West, and we're going to be talking about the spell Detect Evil and Good. Hello, Sam.
Hi, Bob. Detect Evil and Good is hard. This is a tricky one.
Well, before we begin, I'm going to go on my rant. I've already done it before, but these 5th edition evil and good spells rub me the wrong way. It's nothing to do with evil or good. It's just creature types and that. Yeah, I didn't bring this up when last evil and good spell we did, but it doesn't matter so much for detecting as we're going to talk about today. But when you're actually, fighting them, it takes away some flavor for me because what if you got celestials and aberrations or whatever coming at you at the same time, and say you're a paladin and you just blast everyone, friend or foe. That's not nice.
Yeah, I think generally the nomenclature I think is what hurts the most, and it definitely feels like it's a relic of how the games used to be. And I really think that the typing is useful, but at the same time, it just is a catch-all for all of them all at once. You don't have to pick anything. It just feels a little bit clunky. I don't know. I'm with you. I think it's weird. I don't think they should have been released in this form, but I don't know. What can you do?
Yeah, we've talked about this before. That's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about Detect Good and Evil. And you say it's a hard one, a tricky one to review.
Yes. So Detect Evil and Good is similar-ish to Detect Magic. It's similar-ish to Locate Creature. It's similar-ish to Divine Sense. It is notably not a ritual spell, which I think hurts it a lot. But if it was a ritual spell, it could be it'd be a lot better as a ritual. I don't know if it might invalidate some paladin options, which I think is why it's not a ritual. All in all, it is going to be useful in very few instances. Even in the instances where you're like, oh yeah, we're surrounded by angels, just being alerted to, oh yes, we knew we were surrounded by angels and we're still surrounded by angels, that's not particularly helpful. So it's a hard spell to make good, but it can be like, oh, I didn't know that there was a shape-changing aberration that was partying with us. It's good that I cast this randomly and unveiled a secret plot to kill us all. But that's just going to be so infrequently. I don't know.
Yeah, you kind of have to be suspicious first before you cast it.
Yes, but it does it doesn't detect shape changers. So if it's just the type shape changer, nothing happens. I don't know if there are any just type shape changers, but I think Mimic might be that. But the having to be suspicious before using it as a use case makes me really suspect of it, just because the relationship between DMs and players often is going to be there isn't enough space outside of a single insight check to really gauge the validity of NPCs sometimes. So either you're suspicious of everyone all the time, or you're probably suspicious of no one, unless your DM gives you the big clues that are like, oh, this person is acting suspect. You rolled a 3 on your insight check, whoopsie doodle, and then you move on. I don't know. I think that it is going to be the kind of spell where if you're using it to detect things, you're going to find it being kind of trivial, and if you're using it to identify monstrosities among us, it's going to be a challenge to justify using without feeling metagamey.
What about invisible creatures of the types listed? Would that detect invisibility as well?
It does. So you'll know that's most pertinent with Fae. Being able to detect okay, there's an invisible pixie there. That is somewhat useful. You'll get it occasionally with fiends.
Knowing the location, is that the same as being able to see it?
No. Notably different. So if you know something's location, this is kind of how blindness works as well. Being able to see the creature is important for many different kinds of spell casting. Knowing the location of a creature is important for elements of combat, like attacking it. So you don't necessarily need to... A creature... if you cannot see a creature, there are often going to be times and rules where you're going to have disadvantage on attack rolls, but you won't be able to attack unless you know where it is. So being able to say, I know where that creature is and I can attack it, you're still going to have penalties applied oftentimes. And that's sort of where this can be useful. but that's like against 6 specific creatures, right? If you're fighting against imps, pixies, quasits, all right, it detects them. That is probably a decent enough use case. That'll happen against very specific villains only, though, because those tend to be like familiar-esque things or the single pixie encounter you get per game. Because you don't often get like a lot of repeated monsters and stuff, right? But yeah, detecting invisible creatures can be a use case for it. Again, it doesn't, I think it hits invisible stalkers too, because they're elementals, I believe. So you have that small little upside. It just overall, though, that doesn't seem like enough to really sell me on the spell.
What were we saying about comparing it to Detect Magic?
So Detect Magic is something that people like to spam. Detect Magic is something that it's, okay, we're in a dungeon with no rush. I'm taking 10 minutes to cast Detect Magic. This compares oddly to that because this could be useful in that situation where you're like, all right, we're in a dungeon. I'm going to cast Detect Good and Evil to try and detect, like, are those crypts about to explode out with zombies and kill us, right? Is there undead readily nearby? Are there hidden fairies? Are there hidden whatever? That could be a use case for it. It not being a ritual spell, though, means you have a much steeper cost attached to it. As a cleric in the later games, it costing a first level slot is pretty moot. So it will feel a little bit better once you're like 19 or like 9th plus level and you don't mind just burning first level spell slots every 15, 20 minutes. That is a fine use case for it, although you're going to probably keep like 1 or 2 first level slots available just for your healing words. But the lowercase level uses of it, where Detect Magic really is the most spam to be like, all right, I took this spell specifically so I can always know if magical stuff is around me. This doesn't really do the same thing as far as finding those creature types are, which makes it messy. It makes it a lot harder to justify using as one of your 4 first level spell slots when you only have 6 spell slots at 3rd level, right? It's harder to justify it as one of your 2 spell slots you're using at 1st level. So you never really are going to want to take this at 1st or 2nd level. Even 3rd level is hard to justify it.
Yeah. There's too many other choices.
Yeah. Then we have like, it can be a paladin spell. If you're a paladin, you would only ever take this if you wanted extra uses of Divine Sense for some reason, which you probably don't, because Divine Sense is free, basically. You get it regardless. Or you need to specifically detect non-Celestials, Fae, and Fiend. Or sorry, Celestials, Fiend, and Undead. You want to be able to detect aberrations, elementals, or Fae. If you need to detect one of those 3 creature types, it would feel really bad as a paladin to cast this because you're not divine smiting, because you're not doing other more powerful things with your 1st level slot. If you have a cleric and a paladin in the same group, it can be hard to justify taking this then even as the cleric because Divine Sense just kind of does what it does as far as you need it to. The difference between like a 10-minute duration on this and a 1-second duration on this, it's kind of moot because when you cast it, if you're casting in the suspicious circumstances, which I think is going to be the most use case, or I know there's an invisible creature near us, I'm going to cast this. It detects the entity when you need to detect the entity. Once you know it's there, the rest of the puzzle is sort of dealing with an invisible creature or rooting out and getting the shape or the monster or the aberration to reveal itself, or getting the disguised lich to reveal itself as a disguised lich, right? The puzzle doesn't really necessitate you needing to maintain it, so the duration isn't super relevant unless, again, we're like in thick of a combat with a series of invisible creatures that you need to know where their locations are all the time. But even then, it's concentration. So if they ping you a couple times and it goes down, it's not all that useful then anyway. These situations where it is very good, it's vital to have, it can feel. Those situations are just really rare. But it is so cheap that it's like, yeah, I guess this is fine as you get higher levels. Just don't take it as a paladin, for sure.
Sure. So recap, what are the... I'm sure we've been over this, but what are the best situations in which you would use to cast this?
Okay, best circumstances when you cast this. It's going to vary majorly by environment, but it's going to be the kind of thing where you're in a situation where you have a very strong feeling that there is a creature within 30 feet of you. It's a relatively short range. That is suspicious. So if you are being pestered by some creatures in a woodland jaunt, you could conceivably cast this to detect pixies or detect other fake creatures that may be invisible tormenting you. If you know that there is a summoner after you, using this as a protective means of detecting invisible stalkers is useful. If you are highly suspect and are aware of a greater evil in a body snatchers-esque adventure type, this is when you want to cast the spells, whenever you're like going through and trying to root out, investigate, and suspect over, or sort of discern over a list of suspects who may or may not be who they appear. Those are the best case uses for this. This is a kind of spell that is going to really thrive if you're in the specific environment that is, we are playing the investigative team, we are journeying through and trying to uncover a specific creature that is doing one of these mysterious things. That isn't most of D&D, though. That is not...
No. And that also, I forget which spell it was, but in your review, you said it's like a cheap way to solve a mystery that could have been more fun to role play it out. And this feels kind of the same. Like, if you're successful, which I don't know, it feels like you're not likely to be unless you're already pretty sure because of that 30-foot range. But yeah, it seems like the dungeon master put this puzzle in place. He's got a bunch of clues for you. You're supposed to root out the secret disguised enemy, and then you just ruin it with a spell. Yep.
I mean, there's also gonna be the kind of thing, right, where incidentally there's going to be a mystery. And the DM, like, let's say you are trying to uncover who is the secret lich that's using disguise self and infiltrated this super powerful council on a big magical court or something. If you're just like using it to try to detect familiars scouting on you, even in the upper tiers, right? If you're like, all right, I think we're being tracked by a closet. I think there's a malicious force here that's using some invisible familiar to track us. And you cast it, and then you're like, oh, hey, that guy's undead, pointing to the perfectly normal looking individual in the corner.
It looks great.
All of a sudden, spontaneously and randomly, the DM's plans can get ruined, which can be frustrating, right? That isn't necessarily what you want. So yeah, it can, exactly to your point, it can circumnavigate a lot of what could be fun puzzling and solving. And that as a use case feels kind of shitty, feels kind of bad. At the same time, though, it is nice to have confirmed suspicions basically as a spell, which this can be, right? You can all be like, all right, we're pretty sure we know who it is.
You need to be pretty sure already, and that's a good way to confirm your suspicions. Yeah, it could work that way.
Mainly only in lower levels, though, right? As you get to the upper levels, it doesn't cost you a whole lot to just check everyone. Just walk around for an hour with 6 casts of this using your first and second level spell slots, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, we've checked every single human being in this town. Everyone's good. No one's a fae, fiend, celestial, undead, any of that. So I don't know. This is a hard one. I don't think it's that good, but there are definitely going to be cases where you'll want it. It just, those are, to make it feel fun seems hard. And whenever you already have better tools on like the paladin and cleric, not really cleric, but more so paladin to do this kind of thing, that are, again, just baked into the class, I feel like this spell's going to come up very infrequently.
All right, so give it an arbitrary Sam score.
Arbitrary rating. I love these. 2 out of 5. It'll randomly find that it'll be like, oh, hey, we know we're going towards fake creatures. I'm going to prep this in case there's invisible baddies that I need to acknowledge. Or, you're in specifically the body snatcher situation where you're trying to define people that aren't people, but also aren't only monstrosity shape changers. And this is when you'll prepare that. Otherwise, nah, this isn't going on your character sheets.
All right, everyone, that was Detect Evil and Good. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Sam, for doing what you do.
Anytime.
Catch us next time. Goodbye.
Bye, you too.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, our full review of the spell, and other fun things.